how you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's Long Box. I'm here talking with Starmillion. How you doing, Starmillion?
Yeah, I'm good, John. How are you?
Good, good. One thing I noticed about you, and you're a good guy for doing it. You're always shouting out and reposting everybody else's campaign. So I think that's awesome. You know,
Yeah, nice. Just giving that love back. Or
I think that's good. At the risk of coming out of the gate a little negative, I've been noticing there's a lot of drama in this independent comic book. I want to save that for the mainstream. Let them be dramatic. Let them cause problems. So it's refreshing to come across. For those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, Starmillion. I came across his Twitter name, and I just noticed that you've been reposting a lot of these guys that I really enjoy. So I was like, hey, that started us talking and everything, and here we are having a conversation. I also want to say thank you for Yang Zhao for having me on. I was just on his channel. Sorry, I was a little rushed for time, but me and you scheduled this weeks ago.
No, I was watching you guys. So yeah, no, it was a good video to be watching. So I had plenty to do before.
On the right. I'm so used to being on this side of the screen. And hello, Marcus. Hello, everybody. Okay. Oh, yeah, Yang, thank you. I really enjoyed. Yang had some really interesting ideas of how to get comic books into other people. So go watch that. Marcus, if you could put the link to Yang's talk with me on that, let's give Yang some views. So anyway, let's talk about you. Who are you and why are you here?
That's a nice, easy question to start with. My name.
I remember dating a girl back in college, and I met her dad, and that was basically justify your existence. Why are you dating my daughter? Let's get out of here.
Yeah, lucky enough, my wife's dad, he doesn't speak much English, so I kind of dodged out. He probably did ask me that, but I dodged a bullet with it. So I was just like, nah, sorry, I didn't catch that. But no, my name's John as well. Seems like a pretty common name going around. Yeah. Basically, I've wanted to tell stories since I was a kid. All through high school, I'd be writing short stories, this, that, and the other. Went to like my careers advisor. I was like, oh, how do I get into this? And he was like, go be a plumber. So I was like, okay. So I went to my dad, who dragged me into comics from a young age. Like, he got me my first comic, was it Captain Carrot and the Zoo Crew, back when I was like 5. Nice. And yeah, it would be me and him sitting on the couch. He'll be reading Captain Britain, as us British like to do, it seems. And I was sitting there reading Captain Carrot. And yeah, like he really dragged me into it and wanting to tell stories. Originally, I wanted to like make films and all that, but I got told continuously, like, you can't do this, you can't do this. I even went to my dad, like, oh, I want to tell stories. He's like, no, go get a trade, go do this. So for years, I was pretty much told, like, you can't do this.
Are you a plumber?
I was a plumber, yeah, until basically there was like a recession over here. Well, it was worldwide, but all the building work dried off. I was like halfway through my apprenticeship. The company I was working with went dead, so I was like, right, I don't know what to do now, and fell into like customer service work. So I've been kind of knocking about.
Plumbers over here in New York do pretty well for themselves. I'm an electrician. I wanted to make comic books, and they didn't say become a plumber. They said become an electrician. Everybody likes electricity, so I'm not doing too bad.
Yeah, it's two things. You always need a toilet, and you always need electricity. So yeah, plumbers and electricians get by.
I'm surprised to hear that the economy made a plumber stop, because everybody poops.
Yeah, it was more just because I was still an apprentice working like towards it. Like, they just wanted people fully put. Like, it was costing them more money to send me to college and all of that. Yeah. So like, I understood it. Like, kind of, I just take my knocks as I go along. After customer service, I fell into security, and I've been doing that for like the last 6 years now. So that's given me a lot of time to write. I was doing night shifts for 2 years, and that's how I kind of found the indie comics community. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, when I first started looking at it, everyone seemed happy, and within like a month or two, it was just like all this bickering and whatnot. So I was kind of like,
people keep
Okay.
encouraging me to pick sides, and I don't want to pick sides. Like, I don't know. I'm just like, let's pretend you and Yang Zhao were fighting. I could be friends with both of you. You guys could fight, and I could be friends with both of you. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to pick sides. You know, I like both of you guys. Fight all you want. That's between you two. So that's the way I feel. I'm trying to stay out of all the drama. I'm not picking sides. There's people that are very vocally fighting with each other. I like both of you. You know, God bless both of you. I hope you work it out. I don't want to get involved. You know, I want my comics to have good guys, and I want my internet to have good guys. You know, the
Well, I
internet's
did not. I noticed that it was like for a while, like I was following everyone, like kind of in the community, just to kind of see everyone's work, and it was just kind of getting a bit all over the place. So, wet willies, yeah.
I wonder if that means something different over there where you are.
Now we were brought up with a healthy dose of American culture thanks to the Simpsons and whatnot during the '90s. So yeah, I'm pretty okay with all the chat.
So
But no,
you're writing your own comic now, right?
yeah, like I actually started like literally with a night shift. There is nothing to do. 12-hour shifts, and I probably worked about an hour of it walking around the building I had to look after. So basically, for the other 11 hours, I just had to keep myself entertained. I started writing like a book, and I was just like, this isn't like I like reading, but it wasn't doing what I wanted to do. So I kind of started to transform that into a comic, and yeah, I'm about 6 pages away from having it completed now.
What's the name of your
Uh,
comic?
it's Orium.
Warrior. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
so
it's not live or anything, right? Is it like
no, well, that was the thing. I was thinking, oh, I'll set up like a launch page and everything like that. But again, like following the community, I've seen so many people. Like I've waited X amount of years, I've this months for this, that, and the other. I was like, do you know what? I want to have the finished product in my hand before I'm actually like, hey, I've got this. Like I really like it. I've been working on it for about 2.5 years now. So like, come have a look. And it's
you're hiring somebody to do the art?
yeah, it's like I found a guy in Fiverr. Um, he's he's an Italian guy. I'm pretty sure he translates everything I send over to him. So his name is I don't want to butcher his name. Right, that's the problem with it. But it's like Giulio Paparoto or something. One day I'm going to get him on the phone and actually get him to say his name to me so I can learn it to heart and I can not butcher it, to be honest. But yeah, no, I was happy to find him. Great artist. Like everything that I put on the paper, he nails every time. Like
Isn't it
he's
fun to
always
see to just you hit send on an email of a page description, and then so many days later you get art and you're like, wow, that's what I pictured in my head. You know,
that.
it
That's
is
what I
it's
was
cool,
like.
isn't it?
It's ridiculously cool. Like I didn't think. I always thought, oh, what I'm putting on the page, he's not going to get. It's going to come across completely different. But no, he's smashed it every time. So
I would
really,
just what Travis Parrick says. Sometimes you have to choose a side, especially if they're a bunch of SJ milk toast weed. I totally agree. I chose a side. I left the mainstream. I was spending hundreds of dollars a month on Marvels and DCs stuff. I left them. They're a bunch of jerks. I'm talking about guys that I like on this side. Like when you're in school and two of your buddies start fist fighting, I'm not gonna jump on one side, start punching the other guy. You know what I mean? I like both of these guys. I'm talking about our side, the comics geek.
but
Comics. So I wish. I don't know. Part of me thinks it's kayfabe. Like, are they just trying to get drama up for attention? And maybe that's why my numbers aren't going up. I'm just like talking about comic book. But hey, how about me and you start a feud? We'll start a
yeah,
feud.
yeah.
There you go.
It's not really what I'm trying. Like, my whole like thing that I'm kind of going for is I don't necessarily like all the art styles that I repost. Like, that's because everyone has a different taste. Like, everyone's got
Yes.
their own preference. Like, I've never really been a fan of webtoons. I have given a few a shot, and I have to admit some of them have been really good. some of them not so good. But like everyone deserves that shot and shout out.
Yeah,
Like I
I
said,
appreciate that you're doing that. You know, I don't want to get involved in jealousy. Like when I look at Cyberfrog making $400,000, $1 million, and then I look at Eric July, I'm like, wow, I could do that. You know, I'm not. You know, let's be realistic, but it just shows you how high it could be. You know, and I see when other people like the comics fail, I feel bad. You know what I mean? I wish I had enough money to buy everybody's comic. You know, but let's be realistic. We gotta discriminate. So I appreciate what you're doing. Just giving everybody a shout out. Matt Bear, how you doing?
hey man,
That's good. Thanks for coming in, Matt. You know, he's got a comic coming out, Rock and Roll Ninja. I think it's being printed as we speak. You know, Uzi Does It. That's the name of the band. I just love that freaking name. Uzi Does It. That is great. And I keep distracting you because I'm still excited from talking with Yang. You know,
yeah, no, it's so good, man. No, honestly, I was listening to you guys and like you were smashing it. Like this, I'd actually been to the Universal comic store that was mentioned. Like I went there when I was younger. I think they had reprinted the entire first like run of Spider-Man, like so from way back when. And like I remember buying that, and then for the rest of the holiday, every single night I was reading it. I was bringing it into school when I got back, rereading it. And yeah, no, it's a great place to be. Like
I remember
picked up loads of stuff
my
there.
wife, believe it or not, my wife and I met over Harry Potter discussions. So we went to why can't I think, the Wizarding World of Harry Potter? You know, is it Universal Studios in Florida? So we went. We've been there like 3 or 4 times, and there was a big comic book store there, but it's not what I'm picturing. Like I'm talking like, because Universal doesn't own Marvel. Disney owns Marvel now. So why doesn't Disney just make like I'm talking like a flagship, like the capital, literally this should be like the Washington D.C. or the London of comics. You go down to Disney, that whatever it is, that storefront that you don't have to pay for. It's like a mall before you get into and there's
just all the merch.
Like the freaking Hall of Justice of comics. You go in there and it's, again, Alex Ross painted the walls like Disney money, you know, guy like whoever. I don't even like, if Kelly Sue DeConnick is launching a new Captain Marvel, she's there with the news crew. You know what I mean? That's what I'm talking about. But yes, I've been to the Universal comic book store, and I just remember like, oh, this is nice, but it just looked like any other comic book store.
Yeah, they're few and far between over here, and when you do go find one over here, like unless you're going into like the franchise one, which is Forbidden Planet, like it's they're usually very small, very dark,
Where
very
do you live?
full. Oh well, I was born and raised in London, but I've like recently moved up to Scotland. Cheaper, better way of life.
Nice
better
and warm
for the kids.
up there, right?
Yeah, definitely. but essentially, like from living in London, which has more people living in London than the entire of Scotland, it's like there's no one here. Everyone's friendly. People say hello to you on the street. I'm still kind of still getting used to that. Like I'm set in my ways of London, just like, what do you want from me? Why are you talking to me? Like go away kind of thing. But no, I'm getting used to it. But yeah, no, I just want to encourage people, to be honest. I missed out on encouragement, like to go and create my own things, my own stories. So if I can just give someone that little boost on that day to kind of write a page, start writing, keep drawing, like that's all I want to do, and eventually get my book out there and hopefully people like it.
How long do you think until you're ready?
Well, I was hoping like by the end of February, early March, that I'd probably I'll have it all completed. Probably print out a couple of copies, make sure that I've gotten all the printing right. When it comes obviously to shipping to America, that's going to be a bit of an issue. But I'm gonna
everybody,
yeah. So I'm gonna see if I can actually find like a kind of print on demand service maybe out there, test it out, get it sent over to me at an extortionate fee, and then anyone that orders in America, hopefully I can just like send it to this distributor in America.
Like, wouldn't it be great to have like a Comicsgate company, you know, and then like, so you go over there in London and like, okay, I'm going to contact this printer over here, and they print it and it goes to this warehouse in America, so you don't have to pay these international shipping, instead of everything going to your house. And then I'm going to get my books over there to London, so it'll go over to the printing company in London, and go to your house, and you ship it out there. But you know what I mean? I see. This is what I think. What I was just talking with Yang about. We need like some sort of like I don't know how much you know about the United States, but we need like a confederacy, like the individual states, but we have like a unified vision. We're not the United States where it's one monolith. It's a confederacy, so we have individualism of guys. We could do this, but there's a system in place where we could all help each other. That's what I'm, and I brought that up to a few people. They look at me like I'm crazy, but I think that's what we need. Like not a Marvel comics where it's just this is my way or the highway, but like like a Image Comics the way it used to be.
Yeah, it's definitely the way to go, but it's getting to that point where everyone
pockets,
is on the same page.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big problem. Obviously, getting everyone, getting someone with some money and getting everyone on the same page with it, because that's something I've noticed.
It's hurting.
The fight.
The great thing about Comicsgate is it's a group of individuals. So I have my own ideas, I have my own politics, Ethan has his own ideas, and whatever, I'm sure you have, but the problem is we're a bunch of individuals, so it's like herding cats, and the desire to be creative. I think it's just fighting. I just wish people would fight behind the scenes.
It's part of me thinks
somebody, we solved it behind the scenes. We shook hands metaphorically, and everything's cool again. Nobody needed to know.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, like you were saying, I think half of it's to do with drumming up attention for the individual. I've never been one to like the only time I've ever argued on Twitter is over football, obviously soccer for you guys, but like that's the only time I've ever argued on Twitter over something.
You guys take that seriously. You guys will fist fight over football.
That's pretty much, yeah. But
football hooligans, right?
Yeah, they're a enjoyable bunch if you catch them at the right stage of drink, to be honest. But
some of it is kayfabe. I understand that, and I can respect that. If you start drama for the sake of attention, I can respect that. But I'm not. I'm talking about like real people, not fist fighting, but hate me.
But that's the thing.
Don't talk to me. He said this. I'm talking to whoever I want to talk to. But
that's the thing. Yeah, it's like, well, I saw the other day there was a whole blockchain going around where some artist was.
Some guy I never heard of blocked me on Twitter, and it was funny because I saw Renzo Rodriguez. He's the artist for my comic, the nicest person. This guy's going to get canonized as a saint someday, and he's blocked. So I just said to Renzo, I said, that guy's missing out, not seeing your tweets. When I talk to Renzo, I see like an aura behind him of divinity. He's just the nicest, sweetest guy you'll ever meet. Always smiling, super talented. And this guy's blocked. That's your loss on your new Punisher comic. Great way to launch a new series by blocking 60,000. I bet you that blockchain has more people blocked than buy that comic.
But that's the thing. It's like I don't see the point in it. It's like I grew up like with the whole sticks and stones thing. Like if I haven't had it yet where someone's come at me like trying to say anything or trying to start an argument, but I'm sure at some point it will happen. But I'm just going to be like, cool, carry on, mate. Like
I've adopted the stance that I will take everything in the best possible interpretation that I can, unless I know specifically that this is meant to be like a mean insult or something like that. So like, if I misinterpret something, I'm going to err on the side of grace and like, he's just, I'm one of 7 kids. I'm a construction worker. Believe me, when I go to work and these guys stop busting my chops, that's when I know I'm in trouble.
Yeah. That's the thing.
To me, what did I do now? I'm about to get marched into the unemployment office, so.
Yeah, no, Bill.
Our house on Thanksgiving, my father would insult you, my mother would insult you, So yeah, I'm pretty hard to penetrate that way.
Yeah, no, I got you. But like building sites over here ain't much different. Like especially being like a 16-year-old kid on the site, and everyone's obviously like late 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. I'm the whipping boy. Any insult is it got whipped my way, and I was like just there
Fresh,
like,
fresh meat's
what
coming
did I
down.
do? So
I remember my
yeah,
first year in construction. I was coming. I was teaching kindergarten. You know, I don't know if you call it kindergarten over there, but 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds. I was teaching kindergarten, and then I quit that job and I got into construction. And I'm used to being called, Mister. How you doing, Miss? How you doing, ma'am? And then these guys are F you, blah blah blah. You retard, blah 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 blah. I was coming home every day like. It took me like a year to realize like I had to develop thick skin or change careers.
mine was the other way around. So I grew up like I went to an all boys school. I went straight onto a building site. Like all my life was swearing and insults, and then they threw me in an office. It was the first time I had worked with women since I was about 11 years old. Like when I was in primary school, there was girls there, but secondary school all boys, building site all boys, like all men. Sorry, and then it was just like, then I'm in this office, and the first thing I said is like, so what the fuck are they on about? And they were like, they all stopped, like,
You can't say that here. You can't
and
say
I
that.
was like, what did I say? Like it was just second nature. It would just come out, and over time, I've learned to curb it, and then obviously I've got an 8 and 5-year-old now, so anything I say, like I'm driving my car the other day and someone like pulled out on me, I was just like, just made some really random noise just to stop myself. But yeah, no, it's been a weird one, but yeah, I just want to kind of get my stuff out there, encourage people. I do the same with my boys now. Like my 5-year-old, he's a bit too young, but like I got my oldest, he's reading the Transformers
Oh,
comics with me
cool.
at the moment, and I
The
grew
new
up watching
Transformers
it.
that's coming out now.
Yeah, yeah. So we've
Oh,
read 1 and 2 together.
and it's
There's
good, I've
probably
been hearing, huh?
no, it's really good. Probably a
Yeah.
few scenes that I should have been like, maybe an 8-year-old maybe shouldn't watch like that, but or shouldn't read that. But no, I grew up watching. First film I remember watching was Terminator 2. So like, I'm not scarred, or I
Yeah.
hope I'm not.
Yeah.
So
I didn't read it yet. I'm too old. The Transformers came out after my time, so like my little
uh,
brother was into. So I never got into them. I never played with the toys. I never read the comics, but I'm just glad that it's doing well. And Robert Kirkman, I'm a fanboy of his. I got all of his comics, but I just didn't get the Transformers because I'm just not interested in that. But I am really glad that this is a solid success because a rising tide floats all boats. And if your kids are reading Transformers, then someday your son will be 25 years old. He's like, I remember sitting down at the couch reading comics with dad, and then I'm gonna, you know what I mean? I think that's something that's missing in comic books. I was just talking with Yang about that. There's not enough all ages comics for kids. I understand
yeah.
everybody wants to write their big booby superhero girl, with her top falling off. And more power to you. But I'm look at me. I'm getting how many more decades left? Notice I said decades, not years. Left do I have? But
But
anyway,
yeah, no, that's one of the things with the indie comics I've seen. It's like mine isn't like I get sex sales, and like you said, all power to you. Kind of like do what is right for you.
right. Do what you
Like,
want. Yeah.
but it's like mine is very much like mine's kind of more of it's like about consciousness, and it's like really sci-fi. Like there's not really many, well, there's no like half naked women in it kind of thing. So part of me was a bit worried going into the crowdfunding thing, because everything, even when I'm looking through like Kickstarter, Indiegogo, like even from my comic, like every other one is basically got like a half naked woman, like tight clothes. I get that that's part of comics in general, always has been, but
So, yeah. I mean, I'm. This is on my to read pile. The
yeah.
Amazon, but there's nothing dirty in it. I mean,
No,
it's
no,
PG-13.
it's Imagination's a great thing.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with a sexy girl, and I mean, we've seen how Marvel killed itself by making these amorphous humanoid shapes that they're calling women, and it's killing us. But comics are a visual medium,
No, definitely. Like that's like eventually, like I will have stuff like that because I've got a few stories lined up. My goal is to kind of create. I've got like 5 stories in my head. I want to
Five
kind of
different
group.
stories or 5 stories in the same line.
Oh no, 5 completely
Oh,
different stories. Like
that's
this one's sci-fi. I got a fantasy one. I've got like a not really a slice of life one, more of like a real depressing story, which I'm just like, this is gonna make people cry, hopefully, because
well,
any emotion kind of sells. So if you can hit the people where it hurts or
somewhere around
make them
issue
laugh,
5.
cry.
If I make it to issue 5, I want to make the saddest superhero story ever.
Nice,
And
nice.
if I did my job right, you're gonna get on my channel and be like, this comic made me cry, because
Uh,
it's a story I want to tell. It's a little personal, that I'm, right with, so I got no problem with that, but he's a good guy, I don't want to read about the boys, I'm I want my superheroes to be good guys, but whatever.
but that's the thing. Like, we went through a time, didn't we, where everything was like anti-hero, like
Right,
Supergirl, like,
absolutely, and
and
it was interesting. And Watchmen is one of my favorite comics. I'm not. I know I catch hell every time I say this, but I'm not a big fan of Dark Knight Returns. Everybody loves it. I, I don't know. I recognize the
like
importance of it and the impact of it, but I wasn't too crazy about it.
it's like like I read it. Like I personally I preferred the Long Halloween. Like I liked like the real like detective story like that. Like don't get me wrong, the fight in the Dark Knight Returns is great, but it's I like I like story like real deep story based things. Like I used to uh,
And
watch
when it comes
Martin
to Frank
Scorsese
Miller,
films like
I like
every
Batman
single
Year
night.
One, and I like Daredevil. I like his Daredevil run, but so I'm a big fan of Frank Miller. I just didn't like the Dark Knight Returns, you know. And
No,
and
but
I did
different
like the
strokes.
anti-hero, and I like the deconstruction of the hero. But you know what? Alan Moore and Frank Miller were geniuses. I'm not. Everybody else who followed it along in the wake at the we're mediocre comic book writers. You know what I mean? So let's write some good old fashioned comic books, and then prove yourself, and then take your own stuff and deconstruct it. Don't stop deconstructing Superman. Superman's supposed to be a good guy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's there's
and
certain
I
staples.
did like the Superman portrayal in Dark Knight Returns. You're absolutely right. But anyway,
Well,
I'm derailing you. This is supposed to be your hour. So you got 5 different comics. You said you got like a fantasy story you want to tell. You got like a psychological thriller you want to tell, and a detective. See, that is great. I'm not smart enough to write a detective story. I would love to write a detective story. That would be
yeah,
awesome.
no, it's good. Honestly, get a night job in security, and all these stories will come to you. Your imagination, just like you need to. If you don't fill the time with something, yeah, you're gonna have a very unhappy life. To be honest with you. So yeah, no, I've got a few. Like I've got a pirate one even. Like
Oh, I got a pirate
that.
story too. It's almost it's funny because the Watchmen, all the comic books in their world were pirate stories, and you think pirate stories would it caught on, but Chuck Dixon did
Yeah,
the door. That's really the only pirate comic that I could think of. Yeah, a pirate comic, awesome.
that's
And
that's the
Pirates of
thing.
the Caribbean, you think there'd be Pirates of the Caribbean comics,
Again, that's just Disney missing the trick
right?
though, isn't
It's
it?
money
Really,
left on the table. Yep, it's
and
money
it's
left on the table.
so.
I remember
No,
people.
no.
Yeah, I'm not going to take anything away. It was an influential. I read it. I remember bringing it to my friend's house and making him read it. But I don't know, just something about it. Oh,
Yeah, like it's
he slid off the.
like
Sorry, I interrupted you again.
it's all right. But yeah, no. So like, as long as I kind of get to tell my 5 stories, even if I create it, like, because obviously Orium, I can wrap the story up in about 6 issues, but like if it's something which kind of takes off, like I can stretch it out I do have like a big overarching plan and story with it. It gets a bit trippy with like about where human consciousness come from and like
Orium. Could you spell that? Because I'm big into words and I love words. So how would you spell that?
so it's Oreium.
Oh, so like dreams.
Kind of, yeah. Like
Oh,
I basically, I was trying to think of a word that wasn't a word. So I sat there for hours, kind of just throw it like basically because it's to do with the iron in your blood. I was like iron or
oh, okay.
Orium. And then yeah, it kind of all just fell
Oh,
together like that.
oh, cool. It sounds like a Vertigo title. If you remember DC's Vertigo line, like a
Yeah, I
more literary, more introspective. I was a big fan of Vertigo. I thought they were really with comic books. I thought they were an elevation of comic books. You know,
yeah,
unfortunately,
but this
they
oh
killed that line.
decent.
In 6 months.
Oh, but that's a problem. Like I grew up with like a lot of my friends. They love Marvel. I love DC. I was like my kids love Marvel now, but I'm still like don't get me wrong. I like Spider Man and the Spider Man game's great, and obviously the MCU was amazing and whatnot. But well, was amazing. But I love DC. I just like the pure. Like I love Superman.
Superman's
Obviously,
my favorite superhero. Still, and I recognize that it's a difficult character to write and get correctly because he's so powerful and because of the importance of the culture. So I'm very protective of Superman. In if some you became the magical ruler of all things comic books and you said, John, you're gonna write Superman, I would be like, I don't know if I can handle that responsibility. I have too much respect. Give me Spider-Man. I could beat up Spider-Man. But Superman, I don't know. I think that is an awesome responsibility, and I think DC is really mishandling Superman. You know,
yeah, it's like I would like to write a Superman story one day. It would. It's a big ask, but I think it's like he's just a reflection of humans, but he's like the best of us. So it's
right?
like you just kind of who's the best person you know, and just take out all their flaws and kind of like you said, right where you know a lot of my stories is snippets from my life, kind of ramped up to the extreme, like and whatnot. So it's like obviously I can't do the stuff in my that's going to be in my comic book, but it's like I just take things that I know, kind of like play with it in my head, see where it goes. Like Superman would be amazing to write. If you could write anyone, then like from the big two, who would you want to write?
Fantastic Four in a
Yeah,
heart. Fantastic Four in a heartbeat. I love the Fantastic Four. They're still, my first comic was the Fantastic Four. I'm very protective of the Fantastic Four. I'm dreading this movie coming out. Oh God, I feel like a battered ex girlfriend. The next one will be better. We'll work it out. I know, but I love Reed Richards. I hate what they did to him. Like I don't know. He's like supposed to be like the father. He's married. He has a kid. He's his best friend. He's a scientist. Back in the 60s, Reed Richards was cool. Scientists were cool. He's Indiana Jones before he was even had superpowers. And, you got to do that. And then Johnny Storm is supposed to be like this impulsive teenager. And let's face it, Sue really didn't have a personality for 100 issues. And then, she developed her. And the thing was the guy that just got the worst hand of cards in the world. And he still loves and cares everybody. He's just like this Oreo cookies, crumbly on the outside with a cream center inside, and he's just like I keep saying he's the heart and soul of the Fantastic. And I just want to. There's so much, and they should be a family. Like The Incredibles is the best Fantastic Four movie ever made. They should be a family. They should bicker. They should fight, but they pull together. They love each other. They got each other's back, and they should be exploring the most bizarre stuff. That like if you're writing the Fantastic Four, you should be getting every scientific journal and using that as a springboard to launch into absolute craziness. And like explore strange stuff. I don't know. There's so much to do with the Fantastic Four, but having Reed like cheat and sue cuckolding Reed and he's a bad father. That's not what you do with the Fantastic Four. That's not what you do.
Yeah, I think it's again with the whole drama thing. It's like instead of just writing like a good solid story, people were like, oh, if I just put this like the ridiculous moment in it, people will talk about it, people will buy it. But in the long run, didn't Dan Slott say, oh, you can't ruin characters that have been around for like 50 odd years or whatnot?
Yes, you can bend
it's
them.
Like, no, you can. Like, like you can ruin characters. Like if you ruin them enough, like that's what people will know. Like that, like it's like my wife, she knows nothing about it. She loves the MCU, and like she's like heard a few things about the upcoming Fantastic Four film, and she's just like, "Oh, read this, and this." So I was like, "He's none of those things." Like,
right.
And it's just so I disagree with that. Like, you can definitely ruin characters. Like,
I didn't mean I hit the button by accident, but this is my character, the patriarch, and he's an homage to Superman, and he's Reed Richards Superman. He's a father, he's got a family, he's got responsibilities, and I just love that. He's gonna it's gonna be cool. Was
oh no, I remember that's how we started.
What I'm doing.
That's how we started talking when I saw your image of it's Renzo's obviously Renzo's image for your character. Like I saw him, he was fantastic. Like I loved the whole vibe that he was giving off. It's like it's got the classic hero. Like,
thank you.
I'm not gonna lie. Like ever since like Invincible, I get a bit scared when I see classic heroes. Robert Kirkman, obviously with Omni-Man, I was thinking, oh yeah, this guy's a real hero, and he wasn't. I know he goes on a journey.
Even though I talked about the destruction of the Super, I loved Invincible, but there's a redemption arc. I don't know if you read the comic, and I don't want to spoil the show for anybody, but just keep watching.
No.
Less said better. Yeah. I don't want to read the show for anybody, but then again, it might be different than the comic, but who knows? But like,
I'm worried that he might go.
They're all bad, and even the ones you think are good are bad. And I understand this. Invincible is way too violent for me. Well, Marcus, if my comic is successful, issue 3 should be too violent for anybody, and that's the point. I want to make a exploration in violent superheroes, So,
no, like the Invincible does get to points, and there are a few questionable stories to come.
Right. Yeah. And I'm mouth quiet because.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil it for anyone either, but yeah, no. But the only thing is, like you said, they might change. Obviously, like I fell out of I basically I used to read comics with my dad, then my mom and dad split up. Kind of fell out of love with comics. They weren't as big when I was a teenager. Comics, there was hardly any comic shops. The nearest one was like 2 buses away, and I was either too busy like playing football or just playing out on the street with my friends. And then I don't know how it happened. I think I saw The Walking Dead, the very first issue of The Walking Dead, and I was like, okay. I picked it up, dragged me straight back in. Like since then, it was
the show. As pretentious as it sounds, right? I stopped watching the show after 4 or 5. I think season 4. I just lost. But the comic, I never lost interest.
Not at all. Like they went, if anything, I saw an interview that Robert Kirkman did on, and he was saying how, oh no, the show is what the comic should have been. I was like, no. The comic is far superior to the show. Like I get that there's things in the comic you can't put in the show, but the comic was like every time it came out, I was there on the day reading like the last 5 issues before it, like just to kind of get into the mood for the new one. Me and my friend, like wasn't a big drinker at the time. We did enjoy a smoke, so we would sit in his garage and basically just read comics. And it was great. Like, and that sucked me in.
Like at work, it's kind of like a thing. So how many seasons of Walking Dead did you make it through? And everybody's like, I 3, 4. Not one person stayed to the end. I don't even know. Are they still making new episodes? I know they're doing spin-offs.
I think they split the final season into like 3 parts. I didn't watch that far. I basically watched until Negan got into it,
Yeah,
and because I was just waiting for Negan to show up, because I was like, all right, I want to see the baseball bat scene. I want to see the baseball bat scene, and then the baseball bat scene happened at the very end of the season, and instead of showing you it, you see it from like a first person perspective, and you don't see, like, I'm there, like, I know who he's got, but like, and that was the end. That was the end of the season. So you don't know. Everyone's like, oh, who's died? Da, da, da. And but after that, it just seemed to be like they put a lot of effort into the first episode, second episode, and the final episode, and then you've got like 10 to 15 episodes in the middle, which just are so slow, and it's all about character development of people I really didn't care about. So it was like, they got rid of Cole. Like, Cole was the heart and soul of that story, and they got rid of him. Like, when I heard that, I was like, well, I just have no interest in trying to catch up.
That's the problem with the TV show, is the kid grows up, with the exception of the very last story in Walking Dead, Carl is a kid. Like the whole 136 episodes was what, 3 or 4 years or something like that. But what are you gonna do? Give the kid drugs to keep him a kid? You know what I mean? Actors and actresses leave the show. The actress who played Andrea, I think, did she have like a dispute and they fired her, so they killed her off from the show. But in the comic, she lasted till the end of the comic.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, they gave that role to Carol in the TV show. They made, and I was like, someone was asking me, they were like, oh, Carol's like, she's amazing, this, that, and the other. I was like, nah, she died in the prison. Like, and they were like, what? And but yeah, no, that sucked me straight back into comics, and really happy that I found it. Ended up going back then, and what did I sort of love Batman. Like, my earliest memories of films I watched was Terminator 2 and Batman Returns. The Tim Burton one scared the life out of me.
Too, and I mean, when Terminator 2 came out, it was a phenomenon. That was like Star Wars. It was big. Everybody saw it. Everybody loved it. And I remember it sparked up a lot of good conversations, because I was like, yeah, that's the Absorbing Man. Jack Kirby made up the Terminator 30 years before this movie came out. And I started saying, you show me a cool concept in the movie, and I'll show you the comic book that did it 25, 30 years earlier, And it was great, because nobody was like, the Terminator 2. She was like, really? Yeah, show me some comics. And I remember giving comics out to friends, to prove, this is pretty cool. So I thought Terminator 2 was a good comic book movie, even though there was no comic book based on it.
Yeah.
And Batman, that changed the image of Batman. That the Tim Burton Batman movies. Before that, I remember getting excited about Batman, and I remember guys at work were like, it's going to be goofy. I mean, Batman, biff, pow, bang. It's funny because nobody today will say that. But back then, Batman was comedy. And then Michael Keaton's playing Batman. So they still thought it was going to be a comedy, and then the movie came out, and that was a phenomenon. So that was a great, I know people are going to hate this, but I didn't like the Tim Burton Batman movies. Even in the theater, I said that this sucks, and everybody was mad at me. But
no, you can have your own taste. That's the beauty of beauty of it.
But I was grateful for it, because it changed the perspective of comic books, and it changed the Batman comic books became great after that. They were allowed to be a little bit more dark and a little bit more, I know Marcus said he didn't like Invincible because it was too violent, but I don't think Batman ever got that violent, but it's about a guy who dresses up as a bat and beats the crap out of criminals. So you need some violence, but
just as such, yeah.
But before that, it was always like, somebody stole my suit. Let's go to Jupiter and find my spacesuit. That was my problem with DC Comics. I know you liked DC as a kid, but we're different ages, so you're probably talking about the DC that I liked. I didn't particularly like Silver Age DC Comics.
But that's the thing. It's like well, my dad couldn't get it like why I like DC because he was Marvel. Like he ended up selling his entire Captain Britain collection so he could marry my mum, which now that they're divorced he probably isn't happy about. But but
According to the
like
rules, she has to buy him all of his Captain Britain comics. She broke the
oh
deal.
God, the fortune of that now would be ridiculous. Like he kept them in pristine condition, but like yeah, no, one of my first like because I've always loved looking at the comics and going through them. Like he had a web of issue one web of Spider-Man. It was a UK print, so it's obviously it wasn't ever going to be as worth as much as the
Yeah,
US
right.
first edition. So but it was all in black and white, and I remember as a kid I found it in his like cupboard. Like that was they were the magazines at the bottom of my dad's cupboard comic books. So yeah, I'd go through them all, and yeah, I saw this Spider-Man, and I think I was like 5 or 6, and I was like, oh, this is a coloring book, and I got it out, and I was reading through it, and I just started coloring it in, and he came home from work, and he was a prison officer, and my God, I've never ran so quick in my house before. Like he was chasing me all around, like, what have you done? And it was just like, not even good coloring in. I was 5 or 6, like, like out of the lines, and you let me keep it at least. But
I had
yeah,
my little brother. I don't know what got into him, but he took a scissor and just cut up a bunch of my comics. Every once in a while, I'll go through a comic and I'm like, oh man, I replaced most of them that he scissored up, but every once in a while I'll find one that I guess I didn't realize he scissored up or whatever. I couldn't afford to replace it. What were you thinking? For colored comics, the story I always tell is Star Wars #1 came out, Marvel Comics, and it came out before the movie, and they were working from production stills. So Darth Vader they colored green, Luke's lightsaber was red, the laser blasts with different colors. Han Solo had an orange vest. So when I saw Star Wars, I was so mad at that comic that I colored it. So I color corrected. That's like $1,000 comic book right now. You made it completely worthless.
oh man, but it's what you do, Ed, when you're a kid. To be fair, it's like you make the amount of things where I look back. Obviously, like Pokemon cards were massive when I was young, and looking back, if I had just held on to them and kept them in good condition, Jesus, I wouldn't be working anymore.
And we used to flick them, and the rule was they had to hit the wall and then bounce. But if they bounced closest to the wall, you won. So all my baseball cards were destroyed. Flicking the wall, hitting the wall. They had to bounce off. And that's why I bought baseball cards to play this game with my friend. I never liked baseball. Did they have football cards over there?
Kind of have football stickers. It's like you get a little sticker album, and basically you just stick it into an album. If you fill up one of those albums, like they're worth a little bit of money, but nothing like what I've seen some of those baseball cards go for. We don't have baseball over here at all. So
well, I thought maybe I know you don't have baseball, but I thought would you have like cricket cards, like guys dressed up soccer cards?
Nah, that never really took off with the working class, to be honest. that's a whole different. We've got different sports depending on where you grew up, pretty much, and what your accent's like. The posher your accent, the whiter the clothes you wear, to be honest. Hence cricket being the top and polo being #1. But yeah, never really got into any of those.
I don't know. I can't even talk. Cards, collecting cards. Like when Star Wars came out, there was Star Wars cards. There was baseball cards. Like there was always cards that you could collect. So I just find it bizarre that in England that cards never really caught on. Like, are there any like collectible cards? Like you said, Pokemon.
Pokemon, yeah. Pokemon is now probably the biggest one. Like, but apart from that, no. Comics were obviously massive during the whole kind of during my dad's age, like so basically late 70s, 80s, early 90s, and then obviously the bust kind of happened and it just affected everyone. All the shops disappeared. Like you guys were saying, we don't have well, up in central London you would have like the newsstands up there, but we'd have like corner shops where you could go in and get your comics and stuff like that.
Yeah, we used to have
But
that too. But then comic book stores, closed all them down.
yeah, and so that's the thing with now, like even where I am now up in Scotland, I was looking for comic book shops, and there's the big franchise one, Forbidden Planet in Glasgow. I actually took my kids there the other day just to be like, well, for two reasons. They've got a local comic section, and I was like, "Hi, I got a comic coming out in February. Can I bring some copies here to sell?" And they were like, "Yeah." So
That is cool. I would like to do that, to go around with my comic when it comes out, but unfortunately, all the stores are closed. One opened up right by me, and one closed. It opened up a year and a half ago, and it just closed down this week. Yep.
like with the one I went into, because it's a giant franchise one. Most like their entire upstairs is manga. So it's like,
Are you a manga fan?
Like there are some that I have read, like, and I've watched a few of the animes. Like my friend was desperate to get me into One Piece when they were at around about issue 500, and I didn't want to do it. And then I watched a live action One Piece, and I was like, oh fuck, this is pretty good. And
Yeah.
then I asked him
at work, it was like, what do you mean you don't read manga? He's in his 30s. He's like, what do you mean you don't read manga? I'm like, it's relatively new, So he was, so I said, pick one and I'll watch it, or an anime rather. Pick one and I'll watch it. He picked Full Metal Alchemist. It was excellent.
Yeah,
I loved it. So I've never been against manga. I'm not one of these people like, there's just, good. It's good quality. It's comics. It is comics.
Yeah.
It's different from a different country, but it's excellent, and that's why kids are reading it, because it's excellent. And we're taking the wrong message. We shouldn't get rid of them. We shouldn't make fun of people for it. We should be as good. And the mainstream is not doing it.
Oh, not at all. Like that. Like I've read. So I read Attack on Titan. And I've read My Hero Academia. So I have, and I've watched a good few. And Death Note's a good one as well. If you ever want to give another, if you ever want to give another anime a go, Death Note. I did like Death Note. That's quite an interesting story. But
I had Renee from Renee Draws on, and she was like taking out manga and showing it. I'm like, I don't want to, because then it's just another rabbit hole I'm going to go down. I won't play video games for that reason, because I know I'll be sucked in, and I won't make a comic book. I'll just be playing video games. So I got nothing against video games. I just know me. I got an addictive personality. I won't gamble. I won't drink. I won't do drugs. Because that's it. I won't stop.
Yeah, no. I've had a knock video games on the head while I've been kind of trying to ramp up the finish of my comic. So obviously I can only do it because, like, I'm not going to lie, I don't have a lot of money. Like, I've only just moved to a new country. Obviously it's all on the same island, but Scotland is a lot different to England, and I didn't have a job up here. So I'm working now up here, but it's like having to pay the artist. I'm doing it. My comic's just black and white. Like I'm taking that because I fell in love with The Walking Dead. That's why I was like, okay, I want to make a black and white comic. I love the whole vibe from it.
Final strip as promotion for our talk. I love that little strip. That's why I picked it. I think it's
nice.
It's a cool image. Yeah, Akira, Robotech, Appleseed, Get S. I'm not familiar with, but Area 80. These were all brought in by First and Eclipse back in the 80s. So these were the mangas that I was introduced to, and I actually have a bunch of them because they were imported and brought into America. So yeah, I'm familiar with except for Get S. I don't know what that is. So it's like manga. It's like the metric system. They tried to bring in the metric system back in the 80s into the United States. It made a couple of inroads, and then it failed. And now they're trying again. But manga, I guess it's got more staying power in America than the metric system. even though the metric
Yeah,
system makes more sense.
I think with manga, it's like it's so easily accessible. Like,
And it's
like,
good.
yeah, no, well, that's the
That's
main
the
thing.
truth. It's good, you know. And I'm sure the manga that filters over to the United States is the cream of the crop. I'm sure we could go to Japan and find some horrible mangas. So Tank Ferret is asking, which website are you going to sell your comic? You know, there's Fund My Comic, there's Indiegogo, there's Kickstarter. Which one do you think? You know, we're not
So
going to hold you to it right now, but what are you thinking about?
I had been thinking Kickstarter just because the way I kind of started getting into like creating my own comic was you might have seen him on Twitter, Matt Garvey. He's a British creator. He's got a great indie comic at the moment. I brought a hammer to hell, where it's about a guy that brings a hammer to hell, and it's
It's a
just
great title, isn't that?
yeah, like amazing, and the art's fantastic as well. And so I was watching a lot of his YouTube channels. I've seen obviously I've bought through Kickstarter a lot. I've bought on Indiegogo. I've looked at Fund My Comic a lot. I haven't bought anything on Fund My Comic yet, just because money's been tight. Like I've spent a fortune just moving the whole
I'm a
family.
crazy person, so I bought probably too much from Fund My Comic, and they're great, you know. But you know, I see what I like. I obviously didn't buy everything from Fund My Comic. You know, I saw what I liked, and I've been happily surprised, and I got a couple of bundles coming in the mail soon, so I can't wait. But you know, I'm friendly with Luke, who owns Fund My Comic, and I'm gonna launch him. But you if you want Kickstarter, that's you know that's cool.
But
That's up to
but
you. I got
I
no
think
problem.
it's more. I think with the, like I want to do Fund My Comic, but it's like I kind of need to do a lot more research into everything. But with Fund My Comic, it seems like well they only do comics, so it's like people who are looking to buy comics will go there, and it seems like it's only been growing since it started. Where obviously on Kickstarter
It's only been around for
you're
7 months.
yeah, like so it's definitely something that I've been looking into, and a few other like YouTube channels that I've watched. They've even kind of recommended like it's the place to start actually getting your comics because it is for comics where
It's for
Indiegogo
comics, and
and
I
everything
like it
else.
because I know Luke, and if I have a problem, I could talk to him. If I have a
Yeah.
problem with Kickstarter, what do I got to submit a form? Wait, it's a 30-day campaign. I could call Luke in the middle of dinner and be like, listen, we got to solve this. You know what I mean? So plus I trust him. You know, and like Kickstarter, I've heard horror stories of like their politics. They'll scour your Twitter feeds and they'll find something that they didn't like, and then they'll either cancel it. You know, I don't want to risk that. I know Luke's not going to do any of that. So you
Yeah.
know, and there's some people like I'll never use Fund My Comic, or I'll never go to Kickstarter, I'll never go to. I can't worry about that. You know, I'm just gonna make like a comic. You see that artwork that Renzo's not. Nobody is gonna buy my well. Some people are gonna buy my comics because of me, but people are gonna look at that Renzo Rodriguez artwork and be like, that looks awesome. And it's gonna be awesome if it's on Fund My Comic. It's gonna be awesome if it's on Indigo, and I gotta promote it. You know, so that's the way I look. So enough commercials for Fund My Comic, but I feel strongly about it because it's made by geeks for geeks, you know, to separate this political commissar nonsense. Yeah, but
Well, that's the thing. I just want to make comics. I just want to
right.
read comics. Like
I want to,
I
yeah,
like
I
I've
don't want
said
to
it
get,
before.
I don't want to get involved in, like, I don't think Luke's going to go through my Twitter feed and censor my stuff because of that, but I have heard stories of Kickstarter doing that. And then I'm hearing stories of Instagram, Indiegogo shadow banning people. I don't want to spend all this money and time and effort to find out that some jerk that I don't even know who he is hit some sort of button, and now my friends can't find my comic, so,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, that's the thing. It's like I've always kind of made it clear, like I don't care. Like as long as you're not like saying some real heinous shit, like, and that's whether you're on the left or right. As long as you're not out there like saying like some of the worst stuff, I'll happily like share and promote anyone's work. Like everyone deserves a shot. Like, and yeah, like I don't get the whole. Like I was reading someone saying like how to get what on the Kickstarter. You know, it's like Comics We Love, the little sticker that they get.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh yeah, just put like a trans character in it, or this or that and that. And it was just kind of like, but what about if my story doesn't have that? Like,
Right.
it's like I write from things that I know, like
So you want me to throw a token in, and that means I'm not really writing well.
yeah, like I kind of stand with South Park on this kind of thing, where it's just like I'm not gonna just throw something in for the sake of
Well, if
it
you put a
because
transformer in, does that count? There you go.
probably
Modern problems require modern solutions, right?
gotta find one way.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I I'm just here to encourage other people to create, put out my own work, help other people, and just spread the word of indie comics and kind of try. I don't want to like I'm no Jesus, like I'm not going to bring everyone together, but
Right.
like
I just want to write a
if
fun, entertaining comic, and wouldn't it, like you said, you want to go and put it in the Forbidden Planet, on their
yeah,
show, right next to some that's going to be cool. That's going to feel good. And I wish there was comic stores around me that you know I'd have to go back into Queens or whatever, and then they get like, well, who are you again? At least around here, I
yeah.
make a rapport with some of these people.
But yeah, no, but I am looking forward to that because even my wife was just like, oh, no, you can stand there and like hold it up and like get a picture with all the other comics and your comics there. I was like, yeah, that's a dream. Like
Yeah.
I hope to achieve, I hope to get it done. But yeah, no, the people were really friendly there.
When I bag and board my comics, I bag and board my comics, and then I put them in a box. So these two comics are friends, and they talk to each other. Like, who's my comic going to be talking to? Like, I got to put my comic next to the Fantastic Four for a while, and it's just a silly, stupid thing, but it's fun.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, and that's just the thing. To have your own comic that you've created, like for me, it's just a dream which I never thought I'd ever actually achieve, and to be so close to it now. Like I was even like I was doing some lettering today, and I accidentally pressed the print button, and like it printed off like a page, like it was on an A4 piece of paper, but still I like kind of was holding it. I was like, oh, yeah, wow, it's
Comic that you
real.
published in the '90s. I didn't know that. Put it in the chat what you published, Marcus. He's one of my long-term, comic book. He's been following me for a while and talking. And if my comic is doing successful, one of my stretch goals will be to add an 8-page short story about a villain. So
Oh, nice.
the main comic, it's going to be called Heroic Tales. And if I hit stretch goals, I'll put an 8-page unheroic tales, the origin of one of the villains in the back. And Marcus will, we're trying out to see if we can work together. I might be a jerk. I don't know.
See, that's something like I'm a really kind of simple guy. Like when it comes to like all the merchandise I'm seeing everyone creating for their comic, like I've just got a 32-page comic book, and like I'm gonna have a variant cover, and that's about it. Like I know I need to start looking at all the other avenues and stuff, but I just want to make my book get out there.
I'm
And
big on variant covers. I'm like against them, so I guess I'm a hypocrite because I hired Pat Broderick to do a variant cover. He's one of my favorite artists, so I'm excited because of that. But it'll be a Fund My Comic exclusive, so that'll be exciting. But like,
but yeah,
I don't know if you could see this coin, but it says
oh
John.
yeah,
I don't know if it's going to focus, but I want to hire this company to make coins with like the patriarch's laurel wreath symbol, and then on the back it'll say Heroic Tales, and as a stretch goal or optional buy, depending upon how if the comic does really well, yeah, I'll give you all a coin. I want to make pint glass, because I've done all that already when I ran board game conventions.
okay.
I sold merchandise to raise money to fund the convention. When I say convention, I'm making it sound more impressive than it actually was. But so I can do that, but shipping that around man,
It's a
I
whole
don't know
different thing.
if you buy everything that I'm gonna a t-shirt, a pint glass, and a coin. geez, how much is that going to cost to ship to you in London from me in New York?
Like I was looking at I was actually looking at buying a book from indieplanet.com, and the book was like $2.99 so that's like £2 over here, so I was like, oh great. And then went to go buy it, and it was like, right, that's going to cost you £24, which is roughly, well, it's about $27 I think it is in total, $28. So I was just like, yeah, no, my wife won't let me spend that spend that money
Well, the trick is, and
on
I
a
hope
comic.
you're watching, is don't tell your wife how much you spend on comics. That's the trick.
That's the problem is, because obviously everything.
I've been putting it off. Like I always tell my wife, don't worry about it until it's time to worry about it. My wife will worry about things. It's not time to worry about that yet. We'll worry about that later. So, but I can't help but worry. What am I going to charge? Guys at work, like, oh, you're making a comic. What are you going to charge? I'm like, I have no idea yet. I'm not at the printing stage yet. The art's still coming in. So once I get all the art together, and then, I'll contact the printer that I want to work with, and then find, how much am I going to, I want to keep it in the ballpark around $10, and then I see like people have buying Eric July's comic for $35, but I'm not Eric July. I don't have that. So I think $10 would be fair for a guy of my stature of trying to make like maybe more than a floppy, but I don't know.
How many pages?
The story is 22 pages. I'm trying to make it like a Marvel comic from the 70s. So, so it's 22 pages of story. But if it's successful and I can afford it, I'll add another 8 pages of a backup story of a villain. But I also want to, like, I play role playing games, so I'd like to make like are you familiar with like the Marvel universe? They had the character with like all their stats and everything like that. The DC Who's Who. I'd like to do a page of the hero and all the villains, and trading cards, and then I'd like to put a letters page. So the first issue will be me, an editorial like Marvel did, and then maybe the second issue you could write a letter or whatever.
Oh no, that would be cool. That's a throwback. Like I used to.
I want it to look like if you went upstairs and you found your father's comics and you're like, oh, Fantastic Four, oh, John's Heroic Tales, it would fit in. It's a love letter to comics that I love, so I want it to look like I would love to get, like, I'm trying to get Pete Cimetti to tell me where he's getting those beautifully printed newsprint comics over at Alterna. I don't know if you're familiar with that company, but he makes, his comics are just perfect. They're newsprint, but like better than the newsprint that we got in over in the 80s and 90s. But the covers are great, but that's like his trade secret. I'm gonna have to drive up to his house to try some persuasive methods.
Well, I hope you find it. But
I told him, I go, Pete, I'm not your competition. Please, Pete, I'm never, Peter will never reveal his source. Yeah. The guys who publish under him don't know,
No.
So, yeah.
It's that secret.
Believe me, if you're watching this, I am not your competition. like this. Okay, man, I shipped a comic 12 ounces to Australia. It was like $35. I know. I just bought Renzo, my artist, a couple of comics for reference. So I put a big stack in, it cost me $40 to ship it to him. Shipping is what I'm nervous for,
Yeah, it's crazy at the moment, and it's I don't think it's going to change anytime soon, to be honest.
It's going to get worse if you ask me.
Yeah.
I use gift cards to put the backing money from my home, but they won't work on my comics. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, wait. What is it? Oh, okay. I didn't know what you were saying. So you've known, excuse me, you've known Pete. I've only known Pete for like 2 years now. I've only been online for 3, and I started talking to other people maybe 2 years. Pete, I really like Alterna Comics. He's doing something right. Wolf and Batsy is a phenomenal comic. Horace H. Hoover, I'm like, chomping at the bit to see where that crazy comic goes. Fabrizio's insane, and I love talking to Fabrizio because he's like the most normal guy you'd ever see, and then he puts out this total insane comic book. I'm like, where's it coming from? Yeah. So
what do you think about digital then? Like, obviously, I know you love your physical.
I'm not a fan. And I'm wrestling with the idea of putting out my comic in a digital format, because I want it to be a love letter to old Marvel comics, but at the same time, I don't want to deprive people in Australia of my wonderful comic. So I'm resting, but I also am a hypocrite. I don't like alternative variant covers, and here I am making a variant cover. So will I do a file? I don't know. I think I might have to. And I've had people that come on my channel and they sent me PDFs of comics, and I just don't read them. I don't want to read them. I want a comic book, So
yeah,
I've
struggled with.
Man, yeah.
No, I'm a physical. Like, I was having this whole debate with my wife the other day. Like, I wanted to get my kids.
I mean, look at that. That's my comic book room. There's not a PDF in there.
I'm not allowed a room like that. I don't have a big enough house for a room like that, to be fair.
When we bought this house, I told my wife, you have the whole upstairs, and I'll take the garage in the basement. Now, the garage looked like there was a fire in it, at some point, because it was just gross, and it looked like there was smoke damage. And this basement looked like some sort of serial killer was using this as a torture chamber. So she was like, fine, and now it's like we're hanging out down here. It's so I portioned off like a third of the basement just for comic books. Something I've always did, so I'll go back there and just walk around like I have a comic book room. Like I said that one day, I'm gonna, like, on Facebook, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go down to the comic book room, and one of my friends was like, wait, you have a comic book room? Like how big is your house? Like, tiny, but I made priorities.
Oh, I think I'm gonna have to shoot off. It's about.
Yeah, I try to keep these an hour because I've learned the hard way. An hour is the sweet spot. So yeah.
Oh yeah, it's 25 past 2 over here. So
yeah. Before you go, let's I usurped a lot of your time talking about my nonsense. So what's the name of your comic? And you said you're shooting for a February launch date.
Yeah, so end of February. It's Orium. Basically, it's about how your consciousness came along and the metal in your body and what you can really do if you put your mind to it.
It sounds cool. What's the name of your main character?
Robert. Nice and easy. There's only 2 characters in the whole book.
I do like that stark black and white. I do like that. If people don't know what I'm talking about, I'll post it again when I'll put the image up. But it's just really cool. It just reminds you of some good. I'm a big fan of black and white comics, so I think this is
nice.
Something good. And again, I'm taking away your time again. I said, go ahead, talk, and then I start talking.
Yeah, it's all good, man. Yeah, so it's just you've got Robert, who is basically he's essentially being tortured to try get Orium out of his body by an evil German scientist, because us British love a evil German scientist, to be honest. And Indiana Jones really played its part when I was younger.
If my comic lasts long enough, I have an evil German scientist villain, Dr. Scheidenfreud.
Nice. My Dr. Hansen. Yeah, it's got to find a strong German name for it. So, yeah.
Dr. Scheidenfreud is just gonna. Why do you do things? Because I like it.
It's efficient. But no. So it's only 2 characters. It's really about Robert just kind of learning about his past, his future, his powers, and everything he can do, while his consciousness from the future is trying to help him survive.
This sounds like a great concept.
Yeah, it's difficult to put in few words, so I need to tap into my inner Christopher Nolan and kind of
come back when you're ready to launch.
I'd be happy to.
You're boosted everybody else, and gotta boost you when it's your turn, right?
Oh, thanks. I'm just here to help, like, and yeah, as long as a couple people read it, that's all that.
All right.
I just want to be able to say I created one. To be
Yeah,
honest, I'll
yeah.
die happy once that's done.
I will make one comic. It's happening. One comic is I'll make. Now, if I make 2 comics, that's up to everybody else. Everybody else will make one.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
but thanks for having me on, John.
on the same
Honestly.
page about that. Yeah. I'm excited and so freaking nervous at the same time.
Yeah, no, the nerves are getting to me a bit. That the closer when I was like on page 2, I was like, it's months, years away. But now that I'm getting closer to it, I'm like, oh, damn, I'm gonna actually, people are gonna see stuff that's in my head. So hopefully, I'm not judged too harshly for it.
Yes, people start avoiding you at the supermarket.
Yeah, just that's that weird guy. But it's been great being on, and honestly, and
Yeah.
had a great chat with you.
Oh yeah. Anytime. Come back when your comic's ready to launch. We'll or when it's launching, we'll talk. We'll try to get people direct them towards your way. Yeah. But thanks a lot. All right. See you.
Thank you. And see you
John.
soon. And good luck with all your good luck with heroic tales.
Thank you. All right. Bye bye, everybody.
See you later, guys.